Hello, my name is Dr. Bede Harris, and I'm convener of the subject Law 504, Business and Corporations Law. What this video is about is techniques to ensure that you achieve success in this subject. In the past, many students have found this subject to be problematic, and some students have not passed it. And based on the experience that myself and the coordinators at the different locations, both in Charles Sturt University and at Study Centre, have had, I've decided to make this video to give students some tips on how to do well in the subject. I'm going to be talking about 4 separate things: attendance, assessments, the use of application skills, and English language support. And each of these is very important to ensuring success in Law 504. First of all, and this is perhaps an obvious thing to say when you're studying a subject, is the crucial importance of attending class. There's a direct correlation between student success in a subject and their attendance record. Put simply, you cannot expect to pass a class unless you attend the lectures. Also very important is to make sure that you bring along a printed out version of the PDF of the modules that is contained in the resources folder on the Subject Interact 2 site. There is no need to buy a textbook for this subject because there isn't one prescribed, so you don't have the expense of buying a textbook, but we do ask that you print out a copy of the modules and bring them along to every class. This is important for 2 reasons. First of all, you can follow along as the lecturer does their teaching, and you can make notes on your PDF copy of things that you want to emphasize or questions that you might have for the lecturer. Also of great importance is the fact that the exam at the end of the session is open book, which means you can take your annotated modules in with you. And since a large portion of the exam consists of multiple choice questions and short answer questions, the answers to which are discoverable in the modules, it provides you with a significant advantage in the exam if you're familiar with the layout of the modules and where to find information. So I cannot emphasize that more strongly. There is a large amount of material in these modules. That's dictated by the fact that we have to meet CPA and CA course requirements. But when you consider that everything that you need is contained within those modules and you don't need to refer to outside sources, if you keep up with the work every week, the content is in fact quite manageable. The next thing I want to talk about is assessments. Obviously, it's important to make sure that you submit your assessments on time. There are mandatory faculty rules that staff have to apply. In other words, we don't have a discretion on whether to apply them or not in relation to imposing penalties for late submission. If you find that you are unable to submit an assessment on time, you must contact your lecturer before the due date and provide documentation to support the reason why you are unable to submit on time, and for example, a medical certificate. But please note that lecturers are not permitted to give extensions on the day an assignment is due or after that. You have to contact them before, and you have to be able to provide documentary proof of the reason for the need for an extension. Otherwise, you'll be penalized at the rate of 10% per day. The next thing I want to talk about is the critical issue of application skills. Now, one of the things that people often find very difficult when they're coming to law or when they're coming from education systems in other countries is that rote learning and memorization isn't enough to pass the subject. You have to be able to apply the knowledge to novel fact situations, which we call problem type questions. Assessments 2 and 3 are all based on problem type questions, as is a significant part of the final exam. And therefore it's very important that you get to grips with the method for answering problem questions. This method is called the ILAC system, or Issues, Law, Application, Conclusion. And there is a document outlining how to use the ILAC system in the resources folder of your subject. Put briefly, Once you've read the facts and read up on the law, the modules to which those facts relate, you need to frame the issues in the form of questions, which would need to be answered by a legal advisor giving advice to people on the situation. Then, in the next section of your answer, you must write down the relevant rules of law, and these must be based on the material in the modules. Students who go to Google or other sources to try and find the law will usually find themselves misled, and our Turnitin software will very soon discover where people have downloaded material from the internet. All the material that you need to find the law in is contained in the modules, and you must cite relevant cases and statutes as authority for the principles of law that you are writing down. Next, in the application section, you have to analyze or apply the law that you have recited in the law section to the facts of the particular problem. Now, this is where students often fall down. Yes, the law can be found in the law section, so in a sense, what you're writing down there is not something that you yourself have had to think up or compose, but in the application section, you are using your own words and your own thought processes to determine what happens when you apply that law to the specific facts of the case in the problem. And it's absolutely critical that students understand that this is where most of the marks in the answer come from. Your capacity to argue, to give your own opinion, to say, well, on the one hand, this might be true, on the other hand, this might be true, but based on the law that's been discussed in the law section, I believe the outcome would be as follows. It is these critical skills and ability to argue that we are testing when we pose problem-type questions. Remember also that every problem question is going to be different. You will not find assessment items in your particular session that you will have found in previous sessions, and the same applies for exam questions. New questions are written for every assessment and for every exam, because that is the essence of problem-type analysis. It is a presentation of new facts to which you apply the principles. So please make sure that you make an effort to master this skill. We seek to provide assistance in mastering that skill by the fact that at the end of every module, there are example problem-type questions for you to answer, for you to practice and write answers to, which you can present in tutorials if you're a face-to-face student, or online if you are a distance student. Your lecturers will expect you to have written answers to those questions and to be able to present them to the lecturer and to the class. And the reason that we do that is to enable you to gain those skills when you're not being assessed on them at the end of each class, so that when you do come to be assessed at them in the assignments and in the exam, it's not something that you're doing for the first time. So the problem questions at the end of the modules and getting used to writing answers to those provide invaluable practice to assist you in passing this subject. I cannot emphasize that more strongly. The final thing I want to talk to you about, and this ties into everything I've said before, is to avail yourself of English language support. We realize that for many students, you are studying in a language that is not your first language. And for everyone who hasn't studied law before, legal terminology presents a challenge because it is unique to the law discipline. That is why both Charles Sturt University and study centres provide English language support to students who can seek advice from advisors as to the correct way to write, checking of grammar and punctuation, sentence structure, paragraph structure, so that your assignment reads properly, and having written good assignments, you will have had practice to enable you to write good exam answers. The standard of English required is something that is very important for students to understand, and this is where we find, particularly in the application section of problem type questions, where students fall down. But the support is there, the help is available. Our English language support services will stand ready to provide you with the necessary assistance. That's their job, and we do hope that you will avail of that. Finally, remember that apart from these 4 points of attendance, correct submission of assignments, the mastery of application skills, and the mastery of English language skills, your lecturer is always available to answer questions either in person or by email to do with the content of the subject. Lecturers appreciate it when students ask questions of them, and therefore we would really encourage you to do that, because the more clarification you can obtain from your lecturers, the better you will do in the subject. Thank you for watching this video, and I wish you every success with your studies. Thank you.